Thank you so much, Rick, for joining me on this episode of On the Air with Florenza, where we are going to discuss your Too Good to Put Down release, If Two Are Dead. But before we dive into this, we are going to toast to an amazing show. So I have my glass of blush spritzer, which I don't know what it is because I just grabbed something and poured, but you have a fancy mug, my friend.
My fancy FBI mug from the Las Vegas field office,
Nice.
searching a crime story back in the day. So, yes, thank you for having me.
You're
It's a
welcome. Now, what's inside that mug? Do we have a little whiskey or bourbon, or are we just not telling?
secret liquid.
Secret liquid. I love it. Cheers.
Cheers.
Mm, good. Okay, so we're going to dive right into If Two Are Dead. And what I really loved about just the beginning part of the book was that you finally dedicated one to your nieces. And I love that. And I'm going to ask you, have your nieces read the book? And if so, is this the one that they would have wanted to be dedicated to them?
Well, first answer, no. I know one of their moms had the manuscript, but the dedication was not in the manuscript. So they don't know until the book comes out. And even the advanced copies have not been distributed to family members just yet. It's about to happen. So the short answer is no, they have not seen it. And I think they would have been happy with any book dedicated because they kept asking me, what are you? I named the family members in the book. Well, you can be the killer, you can be the detective, first names. And they all got it. But this will be a surprise to them.
Oh, that is so sweet. If Two Are Dead opens with a haunting and morally complex scene, how did you approach writing that pivotal moment? And what would you do if you were in Luke's shoes?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. Well, I really wanted to set that up for the reader, that the reader had to be in his shoes, had to feel that rain, had to feel the hint of the weight of something in his past that's making him hesitate. Because I don't want to give too much away, but you're at a crossroads and you only have a few seconds. And I think the way I came to it is that I think in life on various scales and magnitudes, we all come to this, what would we do?
Mhm.
It's something small and you don't really know until you're tested. And I know I did some research on some heavier things where people went through incredible experiences and others would say, and they said, you don't want to be tested because then you really find out about yourself and you don't want to know things about yourself. So people who might think they're courageous might find that they're not, and people
Yep.
who think they're afraid might find that they're courageous. So when it comes down and you apply that to a moral question with all the other things that are orbiting around him, I thought that's a good way to start a book. I thought I kind of like that myself. I mean, everyone will say, "Oh, I would have done this, I would have done that," but I think you just go along for the ride. I'm just inviting you in with a what if, and
Yeah.
that to me is storytelling. So
It is profound because the entire time you are questioning, like, and one at one point you're sitting in this place of judgment, right? Like that looking down, if you will, on the situation, the scenario. But that other part, you are questioning your inner core, like, what would you do differently? And so it is so captivating to, as a reader, find yourself on both sides of that moral dilemma, right? Like judging him for his decisions without going into it, deeper, but also at the same time knowing, real talk, I don't know if I would do anything differently. I probably wouldn't.
well, I thought it's a matter of layering as the story progresses. You learn a little bit more about
Mhm.
this is why, and you want to know more, and maybe, and then real life it's aspects come into play as well. So I thought on his character on that incident, there was a lot there,
Mhm.
and maybe also, if I wanted to really get real with you, I questioned, or interviewed rather, questioned, but I interviewed police officers who had been in very serious situations. And I'll always remember, their honest remarks and comments to me as a news reporter when they were faced with things that it's a real tough decision,
Yeah.
decisions to make. So I thought, well, let's play with that creatively, fictionally. I'm not trying to make any higher moral, just a good tale with something to think about.
I also felt when I was reading the book that the way that you gave information, and man, I'm good at offending people. Maybe not you, but the listener. I felt like Luke's past and Carrie's story were strippers on a stage, and they were slowly taking off pieces of clothing and just kind of throwing it at me. I got like a garter belt, I got a pantyhose, I got,
Yeah.
I just kept getting bits and pieces thrown at me. So,
No, that's good. It's kind of a symbolic dance of the seven veils type thing with both
yes,
of them. And I think that to me, that's kind of like how we learn in stories. There's different ways and different approaches, but that was the whole what we call layering and just slow reveal, which helps build, and it gives you more information, and then you as a reader are enlightened and educated in terms of what you're learning about the characters, and then you can say, well, now I know they may do this, they may do that, but you have all this information, and then my job is to throw curveballs as it's going live. So
yeah, nice. Of all the research that you do for your books, not just for If Two Are Dead, but for what we're 30 plus titles in, um, what's been the strangest thing that you've researched, and how did it change your perspective on either the topic or in general on life?
oh gosh, so many things. I mean, I've had help along the way. Sometimes you have to reach out to the experts, and sometimes I don't. Uh, Sometimes online you can find out a lot of things. I think the most recent one, and this is very a casual one, where I was going to a conference in Las Vegas, and I was plotting a book about a family in California that actually went from San Diego through Las Vegas and across the country. And I thought, I'll I'll fly to San Diego and I'll drive the same route that they're gonna take, and I'll put myself in their shoes. It'll be nice. I'll be by myself, and then I set up interviews along the way with the San Diego Police and the FBI in Las Vegas and Metro Police in Las Vegas as well. And what I've learned is that it goes back to the old reporter days. What a very experienced senior cop reporter told me when I was his green cub rookie reporter, that because we always work the phones in the newsroom, and he always said, "Yeah, it's easy to work the phones. You phone up a cop and you'll get one story. Visit a cop face to face, you'll come back with two."
Yeah.
And I learned that is that taking the trip myself, meeting with police for this particular book was called Search for Her. I learned a lot from the trip itself, and then meeting again. It took me back, so I love that. And I have to tell you, in one case, when I was visiting with the FBI, and I had my phone, and they said no recording. You can't record in the interview. And I went, oh, and I wasn't prepared to take notes because my memory is not as good as it was
Right.
before. So I thought to offend the agent that I was interviewing by jotting everything up. So it was just a conversation for technical reasons. And the agent apologized and said, "Oh, I should have. You're not TV, and you're a writer doing background. I should have said it would have been okay." The agent should have acknowledged that, but that's okay. But I got right out to the parking lot, and on the hood of the rental car, I put up my iPad and I started writing down everything I could remember right then and there. Took a picture. Here's your crime novelist working on the job in front of a palm tree. Guess where I am?
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I like that kind of stuff. So yeah, to come back to it, it's doing the research when you can is always the best.
Hmm.
There's no substitute for it, but it's not easy for everybody in this day and age to go everywhere and do everything.
Right.
Some writers do, but there's no substitute for it.
Of all of your characters that were either main characters or ancillary characters, have you had any of them that just won't let you sleep? Like they just linger on, like jilted lovers not wanting to let go?
Yeah, and I'll bring that right to present. For the idea I had I'm written 35 books now. 34 have been published, or will soon be 34. When I sent in the outline and proposal for my second book, the publisher didn't like it. They didn't want it. They didn't like the way it was going. And I loved the character that was in that book. And that character never went away. I went off and wrote all these other books. I'm writing that story right now because that character never went away. I can't talk about it. I don't open up on it. It's a dark book, but it's I just love this character. This character's like, she's never left me. She's always said, don't forget about me. You got to help me out through my story here. And sometimes we're working together. Sometimes it's me. Other characters emerge, but that character never went away. And that's going back to the late 90s, I believe.
Nice.
She stayed with me. And hopefully, if things go well, people will see her later this year or early next year.
Nice. Where is the place that you get the most your most creative juices flowing? Like, is there something that you're doing, or is it just a hodgepodge?
Yeah, voila, the hodgepodge. It's everywhere, everything. It could be something you hear, a memory. I mean, it comes from all over the place. Yeah, the ideas, they're just little, almost like there's so many ways to describe it. It's like a gentle rainstorm. There's a drop, another drop, and suddenly it's a downpour. And you want to make sure you can get a handle on things. But yeah, it comes from all over. People I've met, things I've overheard, things other reporters have told me, everything. So it's a hodgepodge. It's from all over.
From going to your reporter days to your fictional writing phase, what was it like to transition from documenting real life stories to creating fictional stories, and how much of your documentation feeds into the fictional, or do you find that you have to shut off some of that part in order for the fictional voice to emerge?
Well, it wasn't all that difficult. I mean, I have some friends who remain reporters much longer than I did, who became familiar with my books. And one good friend said, who knew I put in a lot of time writing hard stories on the crime desk and traveled everywhere and stuff, said, you're just, with your books, you're just going back and writing all the happy endings. Because in real life, justice is not served. In real life, things don't work out. There is a code, as we know, in certain types of storytelling that, it's just got to make sense. People, at least, might not doesn't have to be a fantastic Hollywood ending, but there's always got to be hope or light at the end.
Yeah.
And that's what I find is the difference. Now, on another level, and there's a lot of crime report. I remember Michael Conley mentioning this. We like to ground our stuff in the foundation of reality.
Mm-hmm.
Real life doesn't have to make sense, and you've heard this before, but fiction does.
Yeah.
But if you have a structure or bones or foundation of reality, and that might be where an idea came from, where this is an anatomy of this story that really happened, but I can dramatize it.
Mm-hmm.
But I want it to ring true. Like if Two Are Dead is from, I think, 4 or 5 trips to Texas as a reporter. I'm not intimate or an expert, but I'm going by my own feelings. I made up a lot of counties and police jurisdictional stuff, but I wanted it to ring true. And there are elements that I did experience that I would never forget, that I know not too many other people experience and live to tell about it. but yeah.
What would younger Rick say to Rick today in terms of where you are creatively?
Oh, keep going. I mean, in the early days, oh, geez, you've got me going down memory lane. I used to ride my, gosh, we don't have enough time. But in the early days, I thought people who wrote books were like not human. They're with the gods. They're the ascended masters. And oh boy, it would be nice to write a book. And and how do they do it? And so it was a slow process as a young person that it could be done. When you get the word that you're going to be published for the first time, it's something. As I'm sure you've heard from other authors. But it just keep going. And I think back in the day, I did go to 1 or 2 writing groups, and that wasn't for me. And I thought people would go, I want to be a writer. And I thought, well, there's a difference between I want to be a writer and I am a writer.
Correct.
And I knew that because I was always writing as a kid in longhand, in cursive, and saving my stories and handing them in when we had little grade school assignments for our made up stories. I had a stack of them. And that part was easy for me. But I remember even later when I started to get published in magazines, an older writers group and people going, I want to be, and they were in love, I think, with the romance and the idea of a writer's life.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I've got to go back and write because I'm a writer. I might not be. So that, to me, that always was something I followed. But everybody, I've since learned, everybody finds their own path to
Mhm.
the level of writing and what they want to achieve. But I think down deep, it's just an expression. People have to paint, people have to dance, just have to tell stories.
Tell stories. Have you ever had a situation where a scene or a character or elements of a character were cut only for that character to come back later and demand that you reuse them differently somewhere else?
Yeah, yeah. There have been examples where I've had some passages and things where I thought, this is good. It has to go. It doesn't work here. But I've come back and it's like spare tools in the shed that you can dust off and they actually work really well.
Yeah.
They were meant to live, but maybe in another story. That has happened from time to time. As they say, don't worry. All stuff, good stuff is usable. It might not be usable now. Many times I've fallen in love with certain scenes and passages, which my wife was my primary editor and my agent and my editor said this stuff's got to go, and I would fight to keep it, but they were ultimately. But yeah, I can. Yeah, I think that's quite common. I think with authors.
Nice. What has been the most surprising end of a story for you that even as the creator, you're like, I did not see that coming?
Oh, there have been a few. There have been a few. I have to tell you, for me, the publishers want an outline beginning, middle, and end. And I have to submit that just so they know that where you're going. It helps them plan too. And they realize things can change.
Uh-huh.
And generally, the ending, I work out the ending's usually pretty good, but other times it's just gone because things have taken over and it's a whole other ending, usually a better ending.
Uh-huh.
And that surprises me. I would say that happens maybe 30-40% of the time. But yeah, some nuancing here and there where the ending is, oh, I say to myself, this is much better.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, I'm just thinking back on a few. There's been a few, yes.
Nice. Now, in If Two Are Dead, our fictional place is Clear River. And it just feels like such a real place that I actually had to look it up to see if it existed anywhere. Were there places that you had in mind that you base it on, or it was just a combination of a lot of different places or an experience perhaps that you've had somewhere?
Good question. Yeah, all of those. It was when I was covering a couple stories and sent to Texas. They were largely in East Texas, and I had traveled around. I had been to Huntsville, where the Texas carries out the death penalty, and I've been to the prison. There's several prisons there, and I've been to a couple of other prisons there. We talked to guys on death row, and then I was walked through the execution process at Huntsville. But in driving around there, around Lufkin, around other places in East Texas, you got a sense of the place. Spent some time in Huntsville, of course, and then all over in Houston and Austin and San Antonio. Just got a sense of Texas. A lot of stuff I really loved, and just the fact that the death penalty is a very there's nothing more extreme, and that was sobering the whole time. It was always in the back of my mind. There were a lot of other complicating factors, but to come back to the geography, I loved driving around there. It's mostly by myself. We got down to Galveston, got down to the Gulf, and it was fascinating, and it stuck with me. And I thought there's just a part of me wanted to go back there, and just driving through the rural parts and the small towns. I loved it, and I thought this would be a good place to set a book. So that's when I came to this and picked that geography.
What systems do you have in place when your story takes you to darker places than your real life would require. What things do you have in place so that you utilize all the feels that's required to write authentically in those spaces, but are able to turn them off when you leave that space?
I don't know if you ever really leave it. You could say it's, you know, you're for me. This is a silly analogy, but the brain can be a big house with many rooms.
Yes.
So the rooms never go away, but I might dim the lights for a while,
Mm,
and I go back to that place. And I've always felt this is that for every author, and maybe it's like a movie, everything is filtered through us.
yes.
So if we are writing the worst of the worst in our book, the worst people, still we have to imagine all of that and set that up in the best of the best. All of that is filtered through us. And I guess for me too, it was going back to the reporting days, which all reporters experience now at different levels and different scales and magnitudes, from small town to horrible places on earth. It's filtered through the reporter. If you're doing a
Mhm.
good job, and I'm oversimplifying things, you might talk to the suspect or perpetrator of a crime. You might talk to the law enforcement officials who are trying to see things that are done right. You might talk to the families
Mhm.
of victims of the crime. You might talk to the families of the perpetrator. And then think of that as a reporter, that's filtered through you. All of their, so there's not two sides to every story. There's about
Right.
20 sides to every story. So that's filtered through. And it's also good training, I found. So going back to the analogy, it's like that. So that when I'm writing, I want to give it all I've got. I go full out on all cylinders, and it's intense when it's working well. And then when you go, okay, fine, and just dim the lights and leave that room for a while.
Yeah.
The heat's still there. You're coming back, but then you just go, let's go for ice cream. I'll say to my wife or something like that, or hang out, watch TV or something, But it's always 24/7.
Has a thought ever entered your creative mind to demand attention and you think, absolutely not, I am not going to touch that subject, and you just walk away from it?
Yeah, that happens. Sure, sure. There are certain subjects where I think you could write about them, and some writers do, but publishers might wince a bit.
Mhm.
Readers might wince a bit. I mean, there might be areas you might want to explore, but also you got to remember it's general commercial
Yeah.
entertainment to for sure. I mean, that's what it is. Like go buying a ticket to see a movie, and certain things, make people uncomfortable. So in a way, it's not self censorship. It's just sort of flavoring and knowing
Yeah.
and comfortable with what you want to tell. And coming back to my point about whose shoes you're going to walk in for a while.
Hmm.
I mean, you can do that. It's easy, and people do it. I shouldn't say it's easy, but people do it, and for what, and they may do it beautifully. Um, but again, it's a matter of your own comfort zone. So yeah, there are a few ideas, and I don't think so.
What still excites you about the process of writing that first word for that new idea?
um, well, all of it. It's still scary because it's a long way to go. Each one is a mountain, and you're sort of standing before it, and you look up
Hmm.
there. How am I going to do this? My hands, am I going to be able to hang on? Are the ropes going to hold? It's a mountain climb for me. Yeah, that's just the analogy I'm using. And you start off slowly. I mean, you look up, sure, but it's one step at a time.
Hmm.
And you go, okay. But as you say, look, I'm getting to the summit. This is, and you look it back and you go, that's right, that was the right path. And or maybe it wasn't. Maybe I took a wrong turn and I'm not going to make it. But what at the beginning, it's you come back saying you can do this. Don't worry. I mean, it does not get easier. You're wiser. You know what's ahead, sort of. But it's exciting because you think if it's working, I can't wait to tell readers this story. I want to. If it's working out, if I can get what's in my head to the page, it's going to be great. But if there's some problem, oh boy, I'm going to drop the ball here, and that happens. So I think doubts are good.
Hmm.
Doubts are good because they keep you sharp. right?
When you're creating, are you a person that your family loves to be around, or are you that person that they send to your office, shut the door, lock it, and tell you do not emerge until you are done, sir?
Well, I tend to write with a closed door. Yes. But you should let my wife answer this. And you know, I'll be present. She'll be talking to me. She goes, "But you're not here."
Yeah.
Um, well, there's a movie going on in my head, and people are talking. What? We're not here. That we're going here. We're going. And she knows. She's lived with me for the. She's my number one editor, my number one supporter. I couldn't have done it without her because when I wrote the first draft of the first book, I quit, and she finished reading it, and she read it, and because I asked her to, and she just said finish it. I said, "Was it good? Do you like it?" She just said finish it.
Finish it. Oh.
That was it, and she's been my editor ever since.
Oh, that's so sweet. That reminds me of my husband was in the military for 31 years, and we kind of snuck off and got married when he was in his AIT. And they're not supposed to do that, right? Because if the Army wants you to have a wife, they will issue one. And I met his first sergeant at the time. Now we were young. My husband and I have been together 40, October is 44 years, but we've been married 41. And I see this little short man walk into the crowd, and everyone stops, and the fear and the reverence that they have for this little short black man. I'm thinking, who is he and why are you all treating him like that? So, I'm like a fourth of my size and I'm in heels, and I wander up to him and I'd say to him, "Who are you and what is that rank?" And so he looks at me. He says, "I'm a first sergeant." I said, "Well, is there something higher than that?" And he just kind of looks, and I says, "Well, my husband, hey, honey, wave your hand." And I says, "My husband is going to outrank you, and he's going to get that kind of respect one day." And I just walk off thinking my husband should be applauding my tenacity. And I look back and he is like pale like paper.
Oh, uh-oh.
And a hilarious thing is, about 40 years after that, we were back in Virginia, and my husband is in Home Depot. He had since retired, and he ran into First Sergeant Woodard, and he recognized him immediately. And the first thing he said to my husband, "Are you still married to that woman with the big mouth?" And so my husband said, "Yes." He said, "And did you accomplish all that she said you would?" And my husband squared his shoulders and he said, "Yes." My husband did, in fact, outrank him. He did all of what I said that he would do. And the crazy thing is, my husband later told me his goal was to do 4 years and get out. But when I told everyone that he would outrank the first sergeant, he felt obligated to make that happen.
Thanks to you.
So kudos to your wife for reading that first book and saying, "No, finish it," because she knew that in you was the ability to write 34 some odd books. Now, I know that a few books have come out since, If Two Are Dead. If any of them are soon to be released, can you give us a snippet into those and what we have to look forward to?
Well, I've got one that will be coming out. I've just submitted it. We're still going through the editing process of it. Manuscript's done, but it's still got to be worked on. And that'll be published probably next year sometime. That is a standalone thriller, which we'll just call it a techno thriller with a mom caught up in world events, trying to do the best that she can.
Okay.
That's about it. That we're not locked in. We have a title, but we're not locked in on it yet. So that's coming. The other one I'm working on will probably be a shorter novel. I've got about 20,000 words of that one down. And that's the one that would
Oh,
never leave me alone. But
yes.
like I said, well, that could be maybe later this year or sometime next year too.
Wonderful. Of those who are reading If Two Are Dead, what is the overarching theme or that experience that you want the reader to walk away with?
Goodness. Is that you should try to confront your fears if you can. It's really, the main characters in this story have fears of things from the past and things that are happening to them now. And I think the overarching theme is that those fears won't go away until you confront them. And that's what they're forced to do, and that's what they rise to do. And some things work out, some things don't. So.
Nice. Where are the listeners able to follow you and engage with you?
Oh, I'm on Facebook. I have a website. I'm Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter X, whatever you want to call it. In those places, I'm pretty low profile, low key. I do have plans to be at Thriller Fest in New York in June.
Oh, nice.
Voucher Con in New Orleans. I got that right.
Yes.
Yep. And probably tentatively San Francisco starting in the new year and around Valentine's Day. There's a conference, Left Coast Crime in San Francisco. I like to do those. And also one in Montreal. I think we're slated for one this fall in Montreal. So
Wonderful. Well, we have come to the part of my show that I have called Last Call. It used to be One for the Road. It's been a lot of stuff. And very similar to in the beginning where we did the rapid fire. These, however, are true or false questions. Now, I don't know if the answers are true or false. When I first started doing this, I had my assistant AI Irene to tell me if it was true or false, but there was no fun in that. So now I just get the questions and I have to guess if it's true or false, and you let me know if I'm
oh,
right. Okay.
oh okay. Okay.
Okay. You've interviewed a convicted murderer just minutes before their execution. I'm going to say true. True.
Sort of. Not minutes before. Sometime before, yes.
Ooh.
Some are
Okay.
still awaiting execution, some of them.
Whoa. Okay. Oh man, I can do a whole conversation on that. But okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I've interviewed several. Okay.
ooh. Okay. If To Our Dead was originally titled The Third Mistake. Ooh. I'm gonna say true because it sounds like what the title could have been.
No, that's
Oh,
false. Good guess.
was there a previous title?
No, as a matter of fact, what sometimes happens is we go by working title, and then
Hmm.
you might up a title. What do you think? And I threw that one, proposed it, and they jumped on it and said, "That's it." We have gone through hundreds of titles. Sometimes the titling, as we call it, is a huge. Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I go through the Bible. I go through
Yeah.
Shakespeare.
Yeah.
I used to go into record stores and go through old albums of every kind, jazz, rock, and look at song titles, which could be cool.
Yeah.
Got a perfect grade that way. It was a rock and roll song. But this one, if To Our Dead, how about this? And they said, we love it. Marketing loves it. We all love it. It's the title done. And I'd never had that happen. So,
Did you find yourself saying, darn, now what do I do with the time?
yeah, can be tricky.
Okay. True or false, you visited every town or city that appeared in your novels. And I'm going to say false because the towns are fictional, but based on real places.
False. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, good explanation. I tend to use towns that I've been to, but I mean it's impossible when you're naming other places. So that's false. But I try. I like that because some are fiction. I visit them only in my mind, but yeah.
Okay. This is a good question. True or false? You've based at least one main character on someone you've met while reporting in the Caribbean. I'm going to say true.
True.
Oh. Ooh. Okay, now, was your wife present when you met this person? Okay, we'll leave that one. And last one. Oh, I think this one is going to be true because I think you alluded to it earlier. You wrote your first full-length novel by hand, no computer involved. And I'm going to say true.
Um, Partially. Started out longhand, then went to computer. This,
Nice.
so I give you points for that. Yes.
Yeah, I got a B minus.
Yeah.
Not my normal A. I'll keep it. I'll keep it. Well, thank you so much, Rick. This was so much fun.
Thank you. It's one of the best interviews, the best questions. Thank you. This is very great. Thank you
Thank
very much.
you.
Pleasure and an honor. Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you. And this wraps up another episode of On the Air with Florenza. You may follow me on all social media platforms under Florenza Lee or via my website at florenza.org. Until next time, cheers.